A medical student working the night shift in a locked psychiatric ward discovers that one patient, a catatonic woman known only as Patient Unknown, holds a terrifying secret that threatens to unravel reality itself. The fluorescent lights of the psychiatric ward hummed, a sterile, monotonous sound that mirrored the emptiness in my soul. I was halfway through my third year of medical school, pulling another grueling night shift in a place where hope went to die. St. Jude's wasn't just any psych ward. It was the end of the line, a repository for the broken, the catatonic, the ones modern medicine had given up on. My name is Ben, and at that moment, I was questioning every decision that led me to this God-forsaken place. The nurses, hardened by years of dealing with the truly disturbed, barely acknowledged me. They moved like ghosts through the dimly lit corridors, their faces etched with a weariness that went beyond exhaustion. My task was simple: monitor the patients, make sure they didn't hurt themselves or each other, and alert the nurses to any changes in their condition. As if change was even possible in this place. Most of the patients were heavily sedated, their bodies slack, their eyes vacant. They were shells, husks, remnants of people long gone. But there was one patient who always gave me the creeps. Patient Anyat, Unknown. She was a woman, though her age was impossible to determine. Her hair was a tangled mess of gray, her skin like parchment stretched over bone. She was found wandering in the woods 3 years ago, naked and covered in strange symbols carved into her flesh. She hadn't spoken a word since. Patient Unknown was kept in a private room at the end of the hall, a room that was always colder than the rest of the ward. The nurses avoided it, their faces paling whenever her name was mentioned. They whispered stories about her, tales of strange occurrences, objects moving on their own, disembodied whispers in the dead of night. They said she was a conduit, a vessel for something else. I dismissed it as superstition, the ramblings of overworked and underpaid staff. But as I sat at the monitoring station, staring at the grainy black and white image of Patient Unknown on the screen, I couldn't shake the feeling that they were right. There was something profoundly wrong with her, something that went beyond the realm of mental illness. She lay on her bed, perfectly still, her chest barely rising and falling. Her eyes were open, but they saw nothing, or perhaps they saw too much. They were black, bottomless pits that seemed to absorb all light, all hope. I felt a shiver crawl down my spine every time I looked at them. It was like staring into the abyss. The night wore on, an eternity of silence punctuated by the rhythmic beeping of monitors and the occasional moan from one of the patients. I tried to focus on my studies, on the anatomy textbooks and medical journals piled on my desk, but my gaze kept drifting back to the monitor displaying Patient Unknown. Then I heard it. A faint whisper, barely audible above the hum of the machines. It seemed to come from the speakers connected to Patient Unknown's room. I leaned closer, straining to hear. At first, it was just a murmur, a formless sound that seemed to slither into my ears. But then it began to coalesce, to form words, or something that resembled words. It was a language I didn't understand, a guttural, clicking tongue that sounded ancient and alien. My heart pounded in my chest. I checked the other monitors, but they were silent. The sound was coming only from Patient Unknown's room. I grabbed the microphone connected to her room, my hand trembling. "Hello?" I said, my voice echoing through the empty ward. "Is anyone there?" The whispering stopped. The silence that followed was even more terrifying than the sound. Then it started again, louder this time, more insistent. The words, if they could be called that, seemed to be directed at me, as if the speaker knew I was listening. A cold dread washed over me. I felt a primal fear, a terror that transcended logic and reason. It was the fear of the unknown, the fear of something ancient and malevolent that was stirring in the darkness. I wanted to run, to escape the ward and never look back, but I was rooted to the spot, paralyzed by fear and a morbid curiosity. The voice continued its strange, unsettling chant. As I listened more closely, I started making out snippets of words that made no sense in any earthly language, yet somehow vibrated deep within my subconscious. Ash Hinker, Ashboyonkora, Kalatara, Kalatara, and Kulega, Kulega. Suddenly, the monitor displaying Patient Unknown flickered. The image distorted, the black and white picture replaced by a swirling vortex of colors that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Then, just as quickly, it returned to normal. Patient Unknown lay on her bed, as still and silent as ever. But something had changed. Her eyes, those black, bottomless pits, seemed to be staring directly at me, through the screen, into my soul. And in their depths I saw a flicker of something that sent a jolt of pure terror through my being. It was intelligence, malevolent and ancient, an awareness that saw me, that knew me, that was coming for me. Sleep was impossible. Every shadow seemed to writhe, every sound was a potential threat. The whispers continued, now a constant presence in the back of my mind, a chorus of voices chanting in that unholy tongue. The air grew colder, heavier, as if the very atmosphere of the ward was being corrupted by something unseen. Driven by a desperate need to understand, I started researching the symbols that had been found carved on Patient Unknown's body. I scoured the internet, consulted ancient texts, and even reached out to a professor of Prussian, ancient languages at a nearby university. The symbols, it turned out, were unlike anything anyone had ever seen. They predated any known human language, any known civilization. They were, as the professor put it, older than time itself. He seemed scared even looking at them, his hands shaking as he traced their outlines. He could, however, translate the 3 words I had managed to decipher from the whispers. Ashboyonkora, he explained, meant the Great Terror. Kalatara was Black Star, and Kulega, that meant will open. The pieces started to fall into place, forming a picture so horrifying that I wanted to reject it, to dismiss it as the product of an overactive imagination fueled by fear and exhaustion. But deep down, I knew it was true. Patient Unknown was not just a patient, she was a vessel, a key, a doorway, and the whispers, the symbols, the strange occurrences in the ward, they were all part of a ritual, a summoning. Something was trying to break through, something ancient and malevolent that had been waiting for eons to return, and I, in my ignorance, had helped it along. The monitor flickered again. This time, the image of Patient Unknown was replaced by a vision, a glimpse into another reality. I saw a vast, empty expanse, a black void filled with swirling nebulae and distant, dying stars. And in the center of it all, a single, black star, pulsing with an unholy light. Then, I saw it. A shape emerging from the darkness around the star, a being of immense size and terrifying power. It was a formless mass of tentacles and eyes, a creature that defied description, that defied comprehension. It was the Great Terror, the thing that had been waiting, the thing that Patient Unknown was meant to unleash upon the world. The vision vanished, replaced by the image of Patient Unknown. She was sitting up in bed now, her eyes wide open, a grotesque smile spreading across her face. And in her eyes I saw the reflection of the black star, the harbinger of the coming darkness. Panic seized me. I stumbled back from the monitor, my mind reeling. I had to stop it, to prevent whatever was about to happen. But how do you fight something that you don't understand? something that exists beyond the realm of human comprehension. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, filling the ward with their unholy chorus. The lights flickered and died, plunging the ward into darkness. The emergency generator kicked in, bathing the corridors in an eerie red glow. The other patients began to stir, their sedated stupor broken by the rising tide of terror. They moaned, they thrashed, they screamed, their eyes wide with a fear they couldn't articulate. The ward, once a place of sterile calm, had become a madhouse. I ran to patient unknown's room, my heart pounding in my chest. I had to do something, anything, to stop the ritual, to close the doorway before it was too late. The door to her room was ajar. I pushed it open, my hand trembling. The room was even colder than before, the air thick with the stench of decay and something else, something indescribably foul. Patient unknown was standing in the center of the room, her body bathed in an unnatural light that seemed to emanate from within her. The symbols carved into her skin glowed with an eerie red luminescence. Her eyes were fixed on the ceiling, and her mouth was moving, chanting in that guttural, alien tongue. Then I saw it. A crack appearing in the ceiling, a fissure of pure darkness that spread like a spiderweb across the plaster. It was the doorway, the portal to the other side, and it was opening. I lunged at patient unknown, desperate to stop her, to break the connection. But as I reached her, she turned, her eyes locking with mine. And in that instant, I saw the full horror of what she was, of what she was becoming. She was no longer human, if she ever had been. She was a vessel, a conduit for the ancient evil that was pouring into our world. Her body was merely a shell, a puppet controlled by the will of the Great Terror. She opened her mouth, and a sound emerged that was not human, not animal, but something far older, far more terrifying. It was the sound of the universe screaming, the sound of reality unraveling. The crack in the ceiling widened, revealing the black void beyond. The Great Terror began to push through, its formless mass squeezing through the narrow opening, its tentacles reaching, grasping, searching. The ward descended into chaos. The patients, driven mad by the encroaching darkness, attacked each other, attacked the staff, attacked anything that moved. The walls seemed to melt, the floor to crumble, as reality itself began to break down. I stood frozen, paralyzed by fear, as the end of everything drew near. There was no escape, no hope. The Great Terror had arrived, and the world would be consumed. Patient unknown, or rather, the thing that now inhabited her body, turned to me. Its eyes, black holes in the fabric of reality, fixed on me, and in their depths I saw not hatred, not malice, but something far worse: indifference. We were nothing to it, insignificant specks of dust in the face of its ancient power. Our lives, our hopes, our dreams meant nothing. We were merely an obstacle, a minor inconvenience to be swept aside. Then it spoke, not with its mouth, but directly into my mind. Its voice was a cacophony of a million screams, a chorus of despair that echoed through eternity. "You cannot stop what is coming," it said. "The Black Star has awakened. The Great Terror has returned. All will be consumed." And with that, the world ended. Not with a bang, but with a whimper, a silent scream lost in the vast emptiness of the void. They found me, days later, wandering the streets, a broken, babbling mess. I was committed to St. Jude's, the very institution where the horror had begun. I became another patient, another lost soul trapped in the labyrinth of my own mind. They say I'm catatonic, unresponsive, but they're wrong. I see it, always. The Black Star hanging in the void, watching, waiting. I hear the whispers, the chanting, the promise of the end. And sometimes, in the dead of night when the ward is silent, I see her, patient unknown, standing at the foot of my bed, her eyes burning with the light of a dying universe. She is a reminder, a warning. The end is not coming. It is already here. It has always been here, lurking just beneath the surface of reality, waiting for its chance to break through. And all it takes is one crack, one moment of weakness, one open door,